Hello, my crafting friends. I am back with some all new primitive farmhouse spring DIYs, so come craft with me. I'm Sarah, and welcome to my channel, Primroselaneprims. If you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and crafting with me again in the future. And now, let's jump right into these spring DIYs. For this first DIY, I'm going to be using just one of these 3 or 4 inch styrofoam balls, a little styrofoam plastic egg, and some of these little wood blocks that come from the Dollar Tree. And we're going to make a little spring primitive little sheep. And to start off, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in the color ink, and I'm going to paint each of these little wood blocks black. These are going to be the little hooves of our sheep. And while those are drying, I'm going to set them over their side, and we're going to start working on the body. Now, this is just a little styrofoam Easter egg. It had the little ribbon on the bottom. It was like to hang on a tree, I think, originally, but some of the glitter on it was kind of cracking. It was not the greatest shape, so I thought this would be perfect, the perfect shape for a little lamb's head. So I'm just going to take some black felt here. This was actually just a scrap piece of felt I had left over from another project, and I'm just going to lay it over the thinner end of my egg and just kind of measure out a square. I'm going to add some hot glue right to the tip of my egg, and I'm going to smooth my felt down really tight. I want it to be nice and smooth. This is going to be the face of our little sheep. I'm going to continue adding my glue around, and I'm going to keep smoothing this felt down, about a quarter of the way. Now I have a little bit of the corners here still hanging over, so I'm just going to trim those. Just trim those right off, and then take and hot glue down any of the edges so that it's all nice and flat and smooth around the edge of the felt. Don't want any large bulges or bumps because we're going to be covering the egg in our fleece here in a second. Not really fleece, it's actually macrame cord we're going to be using. So this is just some 3mm macrame cord. I get mine off of Amazon, but I know a lot of craft stores you can get it pretty much anywhere. It's pretty inexpensive. And I'm just going to take this cream colored macrame cord, and I'm going to add a line of hot glue just above the edge of my felt. And I'm going to kind of go slow here to start because I want to make sure that I get this first line nice and even around, all the way around. I don't want it to be crooked going around. And I'm just going to start gluing and wrapping my macrame cord around the rest of the Easter egg. And I want to make sure to get it nice and tight up against each other so you don't see any of that felt or any of the blue egg kind of poking out between the different layers. You said a little hand pop in there. We have had some snow this week, so we've had multiple snow days, and my kiddos have all been home. It's been a little more of a challenge, so to get stuff done. But she's came out with me to craft with mom today. So that was that little hand sneaking in there. You saw she was stealing my scissors for her own craft project. Now, when I get about 3/4 of the way done here, I want to stop because I want to poke a little hole in my egg, and I'm going to pop this little section of wood skewer down into my egg. That's what I'm going to use to help attach this to the body of our sheep. And I want to put that in before I wrap the cord around it so that way it fits down in the egg nice and tight, and the macrame cord's wrapped around it so there's no gaps. So once I've got that in there, I'm just going to keep wrapping that all the way around until my egg is completely covered. tuck that in down there, nice and good. Trim off any little frays or edges. And there's going to be the little head of our little sheep. Now for the body, I'm using the styrofoam ball. I think this might be a 4-inch styrofoam ball, and you could really do these in whatever size. Just make sure whatever size the egg you're using for the head is proportionate to the body, or close. So I'm going to add some hot glue right here to the styrofoam ball, and I'm going to start wrapping my macrame cord around and around just like I did with the egg for the body of our little sheep. Glue and wrap, 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 wrap. Now, once you get about 3/4 of the way, once again, I'm going to stop and I'm going to pop my little skewer with my little sheep's head down in here. So you can kind of get an idea of what this is going to look like. I'm not going to push it down completely because I want to be able to keep wrapping my cord around here and have that macrame cord go up tight against that bamboo skewer there so that you don't see where that goes in at all. Then just keep right on wrapping around until the body of my little sheep is completely covered in the macrame cord. And if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to drop down and hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, I really hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and crafting with me again in the future. I'd love to have you join me. And YouTube has a new feature called Hype. You've probably seen it. It's just a free way to support creators and videos that you like. It signals to YouTube that you enjoyed the video, so it knows to share it with new people. So if you enjoy it, and I really do hope you'll consider hitting that hype button as well. It really does help my channel. And as always, I really do appreciate each and every one of you. When I started this channel a year ago, I wasn't really sure where it would end up going or the response I would get, but I truly have been humbled by the amount of love and support that you all have shown me, and I read each and every of your sweet comments that you leave me. I always try to respond to each and every one of you. If I ever miss one, I do apologize because they truly do mean the world to me, and I've got to meet some really sweet, amazing, talented people that I otherwise wouldn't have got to meet. So just truly from the bottom of my heart, know that I do appreciate each and every one of you and all the support you've shown me and kindness. So here's our little sheep and the little body, and once that's done, I'm going to add a little more hot glue right here under the head and push that head all the way down flush against the body now that it's all wrapped, so that it gives it that little extra security. A little piece of hot glue that kind of stuck out there, just trimmed it right off. So here's the head and body of our little sheep. So next we want to add our little hooves to our little sheep. And here I'm just kind of going to put one on the bottom and kind of play around with it a little bit because I want to make sure I get these placed in a way that where all 4 of the little hooves touch and will sit flush. I don't want my little sheep to be crooked. We don't want to cattywamp the sheep. So just kind of play around with it a little bit. Make sure that all of the little blocks, little hooves touch the ground. Now, just because of the way this is made, it tends to be a little top heavy with that head. So on the feet alone, I don't think it's going to stand up right. And I'll try it here in a second, but it's just top heavy. So it tends to want to fall forward. So we're going to make a little base for it here in a second. So the biggest important thing is making sure that all of the little feet are straight, even, and all 4 are touching the ground so that we can glue it to our little base. Little extra glue popped out there, just had to wipe it off. Look how cute he's looking. But yeah, see, as I try to stand it, it's just won't stand on the feet alone. That head just makes it want to fall forward. So I'm going to take one of these little, this is a little Easter egg thing from just from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to pop off one of these eggs and give it a coat of my Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. This is going to be our little base. I'm not worrying about pulling off any of that glitter or that paper. I'm going to cover it with the black. And when I'm done with this, you won't even see that. So it's not a big deal. Just cover it with your paint. And you could even use a little wood round or a scrap piece of wood, really anything. While that's drying, I'm going to make the little ears for our little sheep here. And using just some more of that black felt, I'm just going to take a little dab of hot glue to the corner and just kind of roll this under. This is just kind of like a little roll. It's kind of hard to see on this felt, I know, but it kind of sticks out. See, I can put my finger through there. There's like a, it pops up. It's a little roll. I'm going to cut off this extra here and might be able to see it a little better. That black really is hard to kind of show up on camera. And on the edges, I'm just going to kind of round them. And I'll make this first one and I'll use this one as my guide to make my second one. So you can kind of see what it's going to look like. This one's a little big. I'm going to trim it down a little smaller. We don't want the ears that big. I want some cute little floppy lamb ears, but not quite that big. So the felt's just kind of rolled and we'll do the same thing. So I'll just put a little bit of hot glue right on the tip of this corner and then roll it under. Use my other one as a kind of a guide for the length I need and trim it up. Maybe there's a better way to make lamb ears. This was the way I came up with. Maybe there's a better way. I'm not sure. If you can think of a better way, drop me a comment and let me know. I had to think about this one for a second about how to do these ears, and this is what the best I could come up with. Something that added a little bit of dimension so they didn't lay flat to his head. I think they turned out cute either way. So then adding a little hot glue, I'm just gonna add one to one side. And then kind of eyeball it here, make sure they line up. We don't want our ears crooked. Try to get them as even as possible on each side. Look how cute this little guy's looking. Oh, I'm loving it. Okay, so next I'm going to go in with this black and cream homespun fabric, the black and cream gingham that I love. If you see me, you know I tend to gravitate towards this fabric, but really you could use any type of fabric or ribbon, whatever, suits your decor or that you like. I'm just going to tie this around his neck to start off with in a little knot. And then I'm going to take these little red pip berries. These are like a really dark maroon red. And I'm just going to trim a few of these little bundles off of this stem that I had. I tend to rip up my pip berries a lot to use in different projects. But if you didn't want to use pip berries, you could also use flowers here. Really, the sky's the limit on how you want to decorate this little guy. So I'm just going to take and I'm going to pick some of the larger berries and a few of the smaller ones and kind of make two little bundles here. I'm going to trim off some of those edges where they were originally attached to the main stem of the pipberry. Roll that sharp edge under. I don't want any sharp edges sticking out. So I'll get my two little bundles here and I'm just going to kind of cross them, crisscross them, like make an X. And then I'm just going to take my two bundles and twist them, one on one side and then twist the other. So it kind of makes an X. And these two bundles are now joined together right in the center in a large X, and it'll fit perfectly right here against my little sheep's neck. And then I just tied a simple little bow just out of that homespun fabric once again. Kind of adjust it around so that it's the right size. I'm going to trim off those tails of the fabric I tied around his neck. Add a pretty generous amount of hot glue here, and I'm going to glue my pip berries and then my bow on top of my pip berries. Now the last thing I want to add is this little rusty star. You can get these off of Amazon. Just add a bunch of glue and pop it right in the center of my fabric. And oh my goodness, look how stinking cute this little guy is looking. So here's the little Easter egg I painted that I was making for the base. And here I'm going to add my hot glue and to each of the little legs of my sheep. And then I'm going to go back under, and I'm really going to glue this baby down in the center. I'm going to use a pretty generous amount once he's on there to make sure he stays in place. So once that's done, I'm going to go back around the whole egg, just add some hot glue all around the base of that egg. And I'm going to start adding some of this dried Spanish moss to cover the base and to cover any of the glue that might be showing where I glued him down to the base. I know it's kind of hard to see right now what I'm doing. I'll lift it up to show you here in just a second. So I'm going to glue and I'm going to keep pushing that Spanish moss down in that glue because I do want the little hooves to be able to be seen. I don't want them to be completely covered. So I'm just going to keep smushing that moss down into that glue, so just enough that you can see, there he is, see his little feet. And then I'll have to trim up this wild, crazy Spanish moss that likes to just go everywhere. I love Spanish moss, but man, it makes such a mess. So here is what our little sheep looks like, and oh my goodness, I am over the moon with how this turned out. It turned out even better than what I had imagined in my head. Now for this next DIY, I'm going to upcycle this little glass jar. This was actually a little jar. I think banana pepper rings had come in it. My husband loves those things on sandwiches and salads. So, and the jars are perfect for upcycling. So I'm going to take that, and then I'm going to take one of these little moss bunnies from the Dollar Tree. They have little darker green ones, and then they have these brighter green ones. And they have them laying down and standing up. But I'm going to take the brighter green one that the bunny's kind of standing up, and I'm going to hot glue him right down in the center of my jar. Next, I'm going to take some of my Spanish moss, once again, Spanish moss, and I'm going to poke it right down and just go all around the base of my bunny, all around the bottom of that jar. This is a really simple, easy, fun project, and it turns out so cute. Upcycles a jar. It's perfect to pop on a shelf or even a tiered tray for Easter, and I think it just turns out really rustic and sweet. So I'm just using my little wood tool here to kind of poke that down in there. Now I'm going with a little, just little sprig of this dried baby's breath, and I'm going to just add little bits and pieces down here, push it down in that Spanish moss, kind of around my bunny, so that my bunny is just surrounded by little bits of moss and the baby's breath. And then going in once again with my homespun fabric, I'm just going to lay the lid on top, kind of measure out a square that'll cover this lid. Give it a good yank, rip it off there. And I'm going to hot glue this fabric right down onto my lid. I'm going to glue my edges down too. I'm going to go around the edges, but I want that fabric nice and tight around there. Kind of give it the look of a mason jar with fabric over the top of around the band. and the edge of my little square was hanging over a little longer than I wanted, so I just kind of gave it a little trim. Pulled off some of those wild strings that like to go everywhere from the homespun. More strings, always strings. And then just pop my lid right back on the jar. Now going in with some of my thicker jute twine, I just get this twine from Walmart. I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to start just wrapping my twine just around the edge of that lid, and I go around it twice. It's not a super thick lid, so it doesn't take much. Once probably would have been fine, but I ended up going around it twice. Now, I liked it as it was, but I thought it might need just a little something else. So I just tied a simple little twine bow and hot glued it right to the front of my jar, right on the band, right on top of that twine. And that is it. So easy peasy, cute, and budget friendly. This last DIY, I'm going to be using one of these little pallet crates from the Dollar Tree. These are just still $1.25 at the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to start off by giving this little pallet one coat of my Waverly chalk paint in the color white. Now, I like to use chalk paint. That's always my go-to, but really, acrylic, whatever you have on hand will work. I suppose you could paint this another color if you want. White is what I chose to go with, though. Now, using my Waverly Antique Wax, I'm going to take here and I want to distress it just a little bit. So I'm going to dab most of it off my brush and then just really lightly start on one edge and just lightly dry brush it straight across, hitting those edges, just to give it just a really, really light amount of distressing. Then I'll go on the other side, kind of hit that top and bottom edge a little bit, and then I'll do the same on the sides and the back of my little palette as well. I'm going to get down in between these little slats here too. So once that's all done and dry, you can see what it looks like. I'm just going to start taking my thicker jute twine here and I'm going to hot glue it right into the center slat here in the back. And I'm going to wrap this twine about 6 or 7 times right around the center of the crate. We're going to make a little pallet Easter cross here. Just a sweet little decoration that could be sat on a tiered tray or on a shelf, or even hung from, say, a peg shelf or a little knob, a cabinet knob or something like that. So once I get that wrapped around, I'm just going to hot glue that right in the center. And then going the other direction, I'm going to add some hot glue. Now I'm not going to do this right in the center. I want it kind of up just a little bit because this is going to be across, so I don't want it directly in the middle. Oops, and I did not hold my twine down long enough for that glue to set, and it popped right back up there. So let's try it again. Add a little bit more glue to make sure that stays put. And start wrapping it the other direction. I think I wrapped about 7 times around. And just make a simple little twine cross right across our little palette. Trim it off and glue it down. Now the fun part to decorate. I'm going to take some of these lavender bundle. I think this is a lavender bundle off Amazon. Walmart has them too. Even the Dollar Tree has some really cute lavender, and purple is the color of royalty. So I wanted to use lavender on this, and I'm pulling off just a couple pieces of this lavender first just to kind of measure, because I want to put a couple pieces going up and a couple pieces going down here in the center. So I'm just kind of getting an idea of where I need to trim this lavender down at. So I need 4 little pieces, 4 little stems off of this bundle of lavender trimmed down. So you can see 2 going up, 2 going down. And then I'm going to hot glue right in the center here, and then press my little lavender stems down in that glue real good. Almost a little X shape. Now this is one of the little 97-cent stems from Walmart. It's really cute little yellow flowers. I'm just going to trim a couple of these yellow flowers off, and then some of these little white pieces with the greenery that is on this. I think this yellow and this purple just goes so pretty together, and such pretty spring colors. Really pretty for Easter. I'm going to take, I'm going to hot glue my 2 yellow flowers right in the center, one going up, one going down, meeting there in the middle of that lavender. Kind of hold them down for a second, let that hot glue kind of set in. I'm going to take the little white flowers that are on this stem. I'm going to put one on one side and one on the other. Kind of tuck them in there. I decided it wasn't quite enough. It didn't look quite even, a little unsymmetrical. So I popped up 2 more of these little white flowers, and I added them to the top and bottom as well. And that filled it out perfect. And oh my goodness, I think this turns out just absolutely darling and just so spring. Oh, I love the colors. Now I wanted to add a way to hang this, so if I wanted to hang it on my peg shelf or on, like I said, a cabinet knob, I'm just going to take and thread my twine through that back pallet slat, use my little tweezers to help me pull it through, and I'm just going to tie it off in a knot. Give some excess and bring it around and do the same thing on the other side to make a little hanger, so I can hang this as well if I choose to. Here it is. I think this turned out oh so sweet and just absolutely perfect for Easter. So that's it for today's video. Drop me a comment, let me know which of today's was your favorite. And if you haven't done so already, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button, follow me on socials, and until next time, God bless and happy crafting.